Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're a part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Speaking of family, I am so excited today because my guest feels like family. She is part of my giant magic family. She is one of the world's most accomplished illusionists, Lyn Dillies, and she is here to celebrate her new video, Your Vote is Magic. Hey, before our guest comes in, we gave a sneak preview of the Solve It for Kids podcast here on Reading with Your Kids, and it was so popular, it's like spun off. It spun off into its own thing, and my buddy, our dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson, is here to tell us a little bit about what's going on with this great new podcast. Hey, Jennifer, what's up?
Hi, Jed. Oh, I am so excited about our new podcast. We've been getting some great reviews. Everybody wants to find out what's going on and meet and listen to some of our scientists and engineers. We have done how do you map an underwater forest?
Yeah.
We have done how do you cut a person in half safely, of course.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have talked about improving your connection with water by going on a water walk, and we have watched Vanessa Brantley Newton create illustrations that come to life.
I took a water walk with my amazing niece. We had such a great time. I didn't fall into the water, but it was really, really fun. And I love the fact that all of our guests are giving our wonderful listeners challenges, really fun challenges that they can do together as a family. And that's so cool. Hey, tell everybody where they can find Solve It for Kids, because it's not on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's its own thing.
So please, if you want to keep listening, go over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and subscribe. And you can download all 4 of the first episodes that we have, plus listen to all the new ones we have coming out. You can also find on Stitcher Radio and, of course, through our website, solveitforkids.com.
Jennifer, thanks so much. Thanks for letting me be part of this awesome, awesome, awesome podcast.
Well, we make a great STEM team, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, join us over at solveitforkids.com. Joining us on the line right now from the south coast of Massachusetts. I am really thrilled. One of my favorite magicians. You guys know that I am an educational magician. I have so many heroes in magic, and this is one of my heroes in magic, one of the top magicians in the world. Please welcome to the show, Lyn Dillies. Lyn, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I am doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm just thrilled that you're coming back on the show to celebrate this new video. Your vote is magic. Boy, I wish we could sprinkle some magic to take all of the hate and the animosity out of politics. I don't know if there's enough magic in the world to do that, but if we could make it a little bit better, I would really love that.
That's what I'm working on, Jed.
Now, before we talk about the video, I just want to let folks know Lyn is an illusionist, and she has made a career of performing magnificent evenings of magic with symphony orchestras all over the U.S. and in other countries as well.
Canada. Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't been abroad, but that goes back to me, being dedicated to my family and not leaving the continent. So.
And it's tough shipping all those illusions overseas.
It is. Yes. It made more sense for me to just stay in the U.S. and Canada, but hey, there's a lot of land to cover, bringing my magic from coast to coast and anywhere in between.
Yeah. We had a really enlightening experience back when we were when my daughter and I were taking that college tour between her junior and senior year in high school. We had an international student from Italy with us, and we were going on tour, and we were visiting colleges in Virginia, in Nashville, in Mobile, Alabama, and Atlanta. And this young Italian woman wanted to come with us and see the country, and it was a working tour, so she was seeing my magic every morning. But one of the things that just amazed her was, we were driving so far, and at one point she said, wow, if this were back in Europe, we would have driven through 4 different countries in the time that we've driven today.
It's pretty vast, isn't it?
It is. Again, before we get into the video, where did you get the inspiration to start performing with symphonies?
That started in the late 90s, Jed. I mean, I had my commercial show, which carried through and still to this day, minus COVID. But I just thought that it would be kind of cool to take my show in a cultural direction and integrate this wonderful classical music with the magic, to combine the audio and the visual together. I just thought it would be such an exhilarating experience for the audience. And so I came up with the concept, found a manager in New York City, and he loved the idea. And by the way, he was Doug Henning's manager for a couple of years, right before he went over to India to study with the Maharishi. So he was very familiar with Doug and so forth. And so I just thought that was the neatest thing, because Doug was a big inspiration to me. And so we took this idea and ran with it. Of course, I had to come up with the program, choose all the music and so forth. And my background before I started in magic was instrumental, no pun intended, in bringing this to fruition. My grandfather was a professional violinist, Kenneth Park. He taught me how to play the violin. So I was doing pretty well. I got up to 3rd position, and then all of a sudden, enter magic. And I knew I couldn't be good at both, because I realized through my grandfather how much practice is so important to it sounds so simple, but if you want to be good at something, you have to practice and practice, work on your craft. And he instilled that concept in me. And I said, well, I love the violin, but I really, magic just clicked with me. But it was that upbringing. So many days coming home from school, I'd spend at my grandparents' house surrounded by this beautiful music. My grandfather would be practicing every day on his violin. And, just to have that background, it helped me greatly putting together the symphony program. I don't know, it was sort of an innate thing, matching the crescendos of the magic with the crescendos of the music. I wanted it to be so exciting for the audience to just feel that power of the music combined with the magic. So it's been just a wonderful experience, and I just my heart soars every time I present that program with the symphony.
That's wonderful. And you came up and broke into magic as a performer, as an illusionist, at a time when there weren't many women doing it.
Right, exactly. I really didn't have any role models, female role models in magic, unfortunately. There were many female role models in my life that helped me out. And Jed, it's funny, I never really gave it too much thought when I was starting out that it would be very unusual to pursue a career in a very male-dominated profession. I just had my blinders on, and I was so laser-focused on my dream coming true. It wasn't until I was a senior in high school and met with my guidance counselor. He said, "Hey, Lyn, what are you going to do for your future?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a professional illusionist." And he looked at me like I had 3 heads, And he said, "Yeah, you really may want to have a backup plan." And, and then he said, "This is really, really unusual to be doing this." And so I started to think, well, maybe it is a little different. And then, but yeah, just a blip. And then fast forward again to when I became more professional, meeting with different agents and so forth, and they just loved that whole idea because they thought, oh, this could be a gimmick, selling a female illusionist. And I didn't ever want to use my gender as a gimmick. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be as good, if not better, than the guys out there, just treated equally. That's all. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. Plain and simple. But, they just took that sometimes and they ran with it. I wasn't too thrilled about it, but I did understand the business part of it too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need a little edge, to get your foot in the door. So, yeah, it goes hand in hand. But at the end of the day, I'm really proud of the quality work that I've been able to do all these years. Mm-hmm. Do some very unusual types of programs and endeavors with my magic and hopefully, be a role model and pave the way for young girls inspiring to do something in a very male-dominated field.
Yeah. Well, you have, and there are many, many young women doing amazing things in magic. And I know at least a couple of them personally who look up to you, and you've been a real role model for them. So that's wonderful. You were mentioning your grandfather's influence on you as in terms of just getting that work ethic and practice. I believe you were telling me also that it was your father's influence in that has really inspired you to take on voting and encouraging people to get out there and vote. That was a lot of the inspiration for that passion that you have. Am I remembering that right?
Oh, yes, exactly. So my dad was very politically active. He easily could have run for political office. However, he ran a lot of political campaigns and would drag me along with him, holding the campaign sign, attending all the events, doing all the schmoozing, that kind of a thing. But he really, really taught me how important it was to vote and that every vote matters. And he actually helped elect Mike Rodricks, who was running for state representative at the time. Well, it was a really tight race. They had to have a recount, and my dad was right there watching every vote be counted. Mike Rodricks won by 7 votes.
Wow.
So every vote mattered that day, yes. And fast forward to now Mike Rodricks being a state senator and the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee in Massachusetts. So he's done quite well, So my dad was a big inspiration to me with that. And then when he passed away in 2005, it was a big, big, big loss in my life. He was my right arm, very supportive of my career. And then now we had the '08 presidential election gearing up in '07. And I kept thinking my dad and how passionate he would have been about that election. And I had this brainstorm of this massive, spectacular illusion that I could perform that would deliver a visual message about the importance of voting. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, this illusion is so incredible. It could be the finale to a big public service campaign. I could have a voter rally and people could attend. We could have a town hall meeting all about voting. We could have veterans honored and scouts involved and patriotic music and on. And then the wrap up would be this illusion. So the illusion that I dreamt up was to magically make the 2 live political mascots of each party appear out of thin air, a donkey and an elephant. Donkey representing the Democratic Party and the elephant representing the Republican Party. So that was the idea, and it took about a year to bring to fruition. And it went off without a hitch, but it was, oh my goodness, talk about a feat and a half. What a ton of work, to get the animals to get along in a confined space. We knew the difficulty in Washington, right? Mm-hmm. The Republicans and Democrats getting along. So here we had 2 different animals of a different species in a confined space. But no, it all worked out really well. And it was a big, big success. It made the national news. And as a result, I wrote a book about my journey, which you had helped me so kindly promote, Jed, a couple years ago. And then from the book, I put together a live assembly that I would go into schools, high schools, colleges, and present this really neat visual civics lesson that would combine my magic with a PowerPoint presentation covering all the bullet points of why the kids need to vote, the importance of voting in their life, how voting will impact their life, that they have an important voice, all the elements of voting history intertwined with my magic. My magic had a very strategic place in the program. So it was really, really successful, and I had all these wonderful assemblies lined up for the fall, and then enter COVID, and I said, no, I can't let this whole mission of 12 years go to waste. So I came up with the idea of putting together a video presentation of it that I can get into schools all around the country. And with the remote learning now too, homeschooling, just everything going on out there, I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to have a much broader reach for a wider audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and Your Vote is Magic is the name of that video, and I'm excited. Tell me what's the main, other than just, hey kids, you got to go out and vote. It's important it's your right. People have died for it. All very, very important points. What's some of the other points that you try to get across to kids in the video?
Well, I like to really introduce the concept to them that they can create change. Mm. They can make a difference. Their voice matters a lot. And I feel pretty confident that these kids of that generation, that they get it, and that they can swing an election. But you also have to be an educated, informed voter. Mm-hmm. That's so important. You can't be influenced by, all the propaganda out there, stuff you may see on Facebook, listening to all the riffraff. You've got to try to figure out, what the platforms of the candidates are, and if they were to get elected, how they would impact your life and your family's life. Mm-hmm. You've got to do your homework.
Yeah. So
that's what I try to instill in the video. And just again that, I kind of propose at the end of the video a challenge to them to find a cause that speaks to your heart and find the magic within yourself and get out there and make a difference in the world.
Yeah. I think that lesson of becoming an informed voter, it's so very, very important. It terrifies me now that so many Americans are getting most of their information from social media. And the information they're getting is not vetted in any way. The media that we grew up with, there were probably some slants, but there were checks and balances. There were editors, there were publishers, people who were responsible. If something was printed and there was a mistake, there was a push to make that correction. Anybody now can go out online and just post anything they want about anything. And if you're not fact-checking, if you're not diving in deeper, and you're just relying on a post or a tweet, or even just relying on a news clip, a soundbite that you hear on traditional media, you're not going to be informed.
Yeah.
And that's about that, and that's every issue that we're talking about.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true, Jed. It frightens me too, because social media is a big, big part of everybody's world now. Mm-hmm. And especially with COVID, it's a captive audience for social media. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It's not vetted nearly enough, if even at all. And that's a very important point. Yeah.
What when you've been in part of this movement, this push to get people out there involved in voting and getting educated, this has been a big part of your life for so long. What kind of reaction do you get from the young people that you've met in the past and presented this message to?
They've been extremely receptive, very positive. They get it, and I think they really appreciate it. what I love is after I've done, a couple of these local assemblies, for example, and I go into a store like Target, and there's a young cashier, and they recognize me, and they've seen the program, and I ask if they've registered to vote, and they always say yes.
Awesome.
Yes, and that they voted. That just makes me feel so good, that they get it,
yeah.
and they're taking it seriously. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best part. I do feel extremely hopeful with this younger generation that they realize what is at stake in the world.
Yeah, and there's a lot at stake. It's just not, who's going to control Congress. We're talking about policy that's going to affect the planet.
Yes, and I also want them to realize from the video, Jed, that, the people that we elect basically work for us. Mm-hmm. We hire them, and we can hold them accountable. And if we're not happy with the job that they're doing, we have the power to do a lot about that. Mm-hmm. And that's all outlined in the video. That we can email them, we can call them, we can protest peacefully. Keyword peacefully. Mm-hmm. And they really do listen. When you come right down to it, when it boils down to them potentially being voted out, they do listen. Yeah. And, I just want these kids to realize that they can make a huge difference out there. And it's so important, to understand the sacrifice that it took. Especially, for example, the women's suffrage movement. Mm-hmm. It spanned 70 years. Nowadays, and not to belittle some of these causes that have been going on in recent years, not at all, but we have a short attention span now in this country. And it's hard that, when you have some movement start to gain a little momentum, that oftentimes it dissipates after a while. But think of these women sacrificing so much for 70 years. That's a long time to never, ever, ever give up. Yeah. And then toward the end of that, when they were arrested and they were sent to that horrible prison in Lorton, Virginia, the Occoquan workhouse, and what they went through, they were tortured there. They were abused. Some were raped. Some had heart attacks, and they were force-fed. It was horrifying. But they prevailed, and their sacrifice was not in vain. Same thing with the Selma Montgomery March as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So many have worked so hard, and I remember the day that I turned 18, I ran down to City Hall to register to vote, and I remember that, and it disheartens me when you see statistics that only 35-40% of the people who were registered to vote actually got out and voted, and that there's, I don't know what the statistic is, but, there's only a percentage of the people who are eligible to register that actually register. There's so many people out there who aren't exercising their civic duty and their right to have a voice in our country.
Yes, exactly. And do you know that it's the law to vote in Australia?
I didn't know that. And that's not a bad idea. I don't know how it would work here, but yeah, interesting.
Definitely something to think about. And if they don't vote, they get fined.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
And one of the things that I hear, and I'm hearing a lot now, is I don't like any candidate. Well, if you go to vote and you don't like either candidate, but you show up and you don't vote, you're making a statement, or if you write somebody in, so there's lots of ways to use your voice, to make your voice heard, but to just throw it away and not exercise it, I think it's a disservice to the men and women who've sacrificed so much, and it's a disservice to you.
Yes, exactly. In the video too, there are cameo clips of veterans talking to the kids about their sacrifice, fighting so hard for our right to vote, to protect our everyday freedom. And one of those freedoms is the right to vote, and again, stuff that we take for granted.
Yep.
But this is what they fought for. Some lost their lives over, so we can have this precious right. So if we don't vote, it's almost a slap in the face to them. And these people that are out there complaining right and left, well, you have to get out there and vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are we going to see any magic in Your Vote is Magic?
Oh, we are. A lot of magic. It's pretty cool. It's seamlessly woven into the video, Jed. At the beginning, well, if you saw the live assembly, what I do, and it's just really, strategic, but it's kind of the same thing as you can relate so well as a performer. You want to get that audience in the palm of your hand right away. Mm-hmm. It's the only way to do it. And the way to accomplish that with this project is to do some really spectacular, exciting magic right at the beginning. So I didn't want to take up 10 minutes on the video, by showing the illusions in real time. So I put together some highlights of some of the illusions that they would see. And then I segue right into the inspiration for my mission. And then it goes on from there. And they see 4 illusions in their entirety that are really, really neat. So they'll really, really enjoy that part of it as well. But I had to film some of it from home, and then integrated all of these other elements, the elements that have the content from the PowerPoint into it, and got it all to my video editor, and he put it all together and did a wonderful job. It's about 49 minutes, so it's a good length.
Excellent, excellent. As you were talking about that illusion with the donkey and the elephant, all I'm thinking is, as you were planning that out, there must have been part of you saying, can't I just pull out a red and blue dove? I mean,
Yeah, really. It would have been a lot easier if the mascots were a dog and a rabbit.
Hey, Lyn, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and where they can find out more about Your Vote is Magic.
Okay, so the best way right now is to go to the website, which is magicoflyn.com. So that's spelled out magic, MAGICOF as in Frank, LYN.com. And then there is a link on there, magicoflyn.com/purchase, where it'll take you right to the site where the videos are available. So we have a video for a single use and then a group user video as well for a school system, or maybe, a scout group. I think people have to just get creative with it. I just talked to somebody today from the city of Fall River, Massachusetts, that is thinking of using it as a community event.
Oh, neat.
To show on a big screen, and have people drive up and watch this just to promote voting with their families, So that's a really, really neat idea.
Excellent.
There are lots and lots of possibilities, but it's a great educational resource for teachers. They can come up with a really cool lesson plan. For high school seniors who watch the video, what they can do is go to yourvoteismagic.org and enter an essay contest called What Voting Means to Me. They would submit their essay, and then I think the deadline's December 2nd this year. The essays would be reviewed by a group of former educators, and the winner will receive a $500 Lyn Dillies scholarship in honor of my dad.
Awesome. Oh, what
yeah.
Oh boy, every penny helps for college kids.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's very comprehensive. Like I say, great resource for educators, scout groups, boys and girls clubs, and even a lot of the adults who watched it. You'd be surprised, it was a great reminder of some of these really important lessons about voting.
Yeah. Well, we want to encourage everybody to go to themagicoflyn.com, check out Your Vote is Magic. And we've had a wonderful time speaking to the creator of that video and my friend, Lyn Dillies. Lyn, thank you so much for being part of the show tonight.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on, Jed. I really appreciate it.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Carol Lindstrom. She'll be here to help us celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the opportunity to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. And get this, it doesn't cost you a thing. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the author's Click Here button at the top of the page and scroll down to where it says Be a Guest. We'd love to have you on the show. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, I want to thank my friend and hero in magic, Lyn Dillies. Also want to thank my incredible team, starting with my amazing daughter, Alejandra Doherty. I want to thank my producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio, keeping me safe. But most of all, I want to thank you. You are really incredible. You are your child's first and most important teacher, now more than ever before. And you are making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.